Hi, this is Uncle Ricky from Uncle Ricky's House. This is another special edition of Uncle Ricky's House, another local interview. Today we have a concerned citizens interview, a resident of Blackstone, Virginia, which is in Nottoway County, county where I grew up in. Um, Today's guest is Miss Chrissy Marie, and rather than me list what she's all about, I'll let her tell you her own story. Chrissy, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Chrissy Marie. Thank you for having me on your platform. I want to start off by saying that. Um, I am fairly still new to Blackstone. I am a social activist. I work really hard in being a voice for marginalized communities, like you said, people of color, women, members of the LGBTQ community. Um, I participate in a lot of protests, public speaking, phone banking. I am the youngest member of Nottoway County's Democratic Committee, and I basically just devote my life to being heard, being a voice for people who feel like they don't have one, and that's basically the roundabout summary of my work and what I do.
Chrissy, it's a pleasure to have you visit Uncle Ricky's house. Let's uh, let's make one thing clear though. You're not a native-born Blackstonian or a resident of Nottoway County. You are what we refer to as a transplant. Aren't you originally from up north, like New York?
I am New York born and raised.
Christy, I know this is 2023 and things are changing all over, but did you experience some kind of culture shock, moving from New York to Virginia, the difference between urban and rural?
Hmm.
Even though we hate to admit it, we all operate, whether we do it purposefully or unintentionally, we all operate off of stereotypes until we expose ourselves to the culture that we are stereotyping. Was this a problem for you, Chrissy, when you moved from New York, Manhattan, down to little old Blackstone, Virginia?
Right, because people up north are stereotyped as rude and not very inviting, but the people up north or from New York specifically, I find to be more inclusive and more accepting than the people of the South who claim to be all about hospitality and love and stuff like that.
Sometimes when you make a major move like that, the physical part, the logistical part of the move is actually turns out to be the minor thing. It's the emotional and personal changes you have to make when you move. What was your experience, Chrissy, with moving from the highly urban Manhattan, New York City atmosphere down to small town, rural Virginia atmosphere in Blackstone, Virginia? Even much more like Nottoway County per se.
I want to say it took a while. I've been here for 3 years now, maybe a little longer. And I feel as though just in this last year, I'm finally finding the group of people I fit in with and, my little like place socially. Um, I find myself to be a very outgoing person. I'm very social, I'm personable, I'm friendly. Um, so, it's from the moment I got out here, I've tried to make friends and socialize and get to know people. I've had the unfortunate situation of falling into being close with the wrong people, which really helped me learn about different personalities down in the South and what's going on down here, specifically in the town of Blackstone.
Southern culture is composed of a lot of things, some good, some bad, and misogyny is probably one of the bad things. And perhaps it is one of the biggest areas of improvement that we have made in the South. Even though misogyny does poke it's still a work in progress, you know. But you've also tackled other things. You're a civil rights activist, so the racist racism thing, which seems to be on the rise in the South, even in Blackstone, Nottoway County. And you are also active in the LGBTQ effort for social equality. And I know, personally, this has to be difficult for you, but have you gotten any affirmation for your efforts? Have you received any, comments or platitudes or gratitude to make you think that it's worth doing this in Blackstone?
Um, yes, it is absolutely making a difference. I've organized Blackstone's first Women's History Month celebration back in March, which is kind of where I launched the beginning of this whole social change that I'm trying to do. I've organized two Pride Month events this past June. I, I've had people show up and thank me for giving them a chance to come out and be themselves without fear, for giving them a chance to meet like minded members of the community and make friends and feel as though it's a safe place for them to be themselves. And I just found that to be heartwarming to me. I've had people come out to me about their sexual orientations and their sexual identities, and it just makes me feel so good that I'm a safe person for these people to come out to and to talk to, and I'm giving them a safe place to be.
Blackstone has historically been, I guess, the most developed township in Nottoway County. Uh, it's always there always seems to be the bigger population, the bigger amount of sustainable employment. Um, People have long for a long time have been drawn from other parts of the county to Blackstone just to work in Blackstone just because of the amount of business that's in Blackstone. And that helps to formulate a different attitude from the rest of Nottoway County. Have you noticed anything like as far as Blackstone maybe perhaps being more progressive or accepting or anything like that versus the rest of Nottoway County?
Well, obviously, like you said, I agree. Blackstone's more progressive. I feel like the people in Blackstone are more vocal. I don't know many people personally from Crew or from Burkeville, but I feel like Blackstone is larger, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Blackstone's larger. There's much more people, there's more people with different personalities. And I feel like that's why Blackstone is the loudest or always being, I guess, publicized more.
I guess when we talk about being progressive, we need to like clarify that when you say progressive, Blackstone being the most progressive or more progressive, that's relative to the attitude of the rest of Nottoway County, but it's not on the level of what we would, I guess, stereotypically describe as being progressive, say, like, on a national political level. Um, you've drawn a lot of heat personally because you are deemed to be too progressive. One of the things that you started was, I believe, it's a women's rights group. Am I correct?
Yes, it's Blackstone's very first women's rights group. We are called the Blackstone Glass Ceiling Crashers.
I'm pretty sure that, being a person that their goal is to raise social awareness and, uh, I guess, for lack of a better terms, try to drag everybody into the 21st century. And because your beliefs obviously rub some other people's beliefs the wrong way, and unfortunately, these are the people that think they are in charge or realistically may be in charge. Um, you run into a lot of antagonism and probably create a lot of personal enemies. Now, I understand that you are employed. I won't use the name, but you're employed at a local bowling alley, and that a lot of the events that the bowling alley sponsors, even though it's not abnormal. You see them everywhere else all across the country, but because Nottoway County or Blackstone is the way it is, it's drawing a lot of uh, hate and discontent, um, and not so much from the entire public, but just from a tiny portion of the public.
Now, I was hired on as the bartender. I've slowly become, yeah, the event planner and stuff like that. So, yes, I can't get too much into it because it's a lot going on right now in the media about them. But I do feel as though if this were to have happened anywhere, it would have received the same backlash. If anywhere in Blackstone were to have done Pride or were to have had the ladies' night event or were to do things that's out of the norm here, it would have received the same type of backlash because people are not happy seeing Blackstone progress in that type of way because it's something that they don't personally believe in or they don't personally want to partake in. I do think that there is a lack of healthcare in the town. I've heard a lot of bad things come from the Blackstone Family Practice office. I don't get seen there for personal reasons. I feel like I feel like there's a lack of care for the people in the community when it comes to Blackstone, and I don't know if it's a town council issue. I don't know if it's like someone above them, an issue for them, but I just feel as though the people who cannot maybe afford to or have the means to leave Blackstone to receive care, they're kind of pushed under the rug and told to deal with what's given.
Historically, in the South, things have in small towns, things have been determined based on two things: race and money. In other words, the neighborhoods that are predominantly white and predominantly wealthy, or the movers and the shakers live in that neighborhood, tend to get the best services because, for the most part, they're the ones that make up the town council or pull the strings in the town. Um, but Chrissy, I understand that you live in Taylor Bottom, which is historically one of the blackest populated areas in the town of Blackstone. It's also one of the neediest and most neglected. Being an activist, what improvements have you seen in Taylor Bottom, and what are the residents of Taylor Bottom doing to take their own fight to town council?
Meetings. We've had community meetings with just members of the community. We've had meetings with the town officials, the mayor, certain members of council, and a lot of the people in Taylor Bottom in the community feel as though we're being pushed under the rug or we're very, all right, we'll get to it last minute. And I'm sure town council has answers for every question that can be asked, but it's just the way that they're portraying is not really getting to the people, if that makes sense. Like we asked for speed bumps a while ago. It's been a very long time and they just got put down the other day. And that is something like that could have been done. I don't want to say easily or overnight because nothing's easy and nothing happens overnight, but I just feel as though there's other areas in town that are getting more attention due to the people that are asking for that attention.
It's obvious. I mean, it's like it's apparent that historically racism has had a lot to do with who gets what in small towns in the South. But the Blackstone Town Council has been integrated for years now, and it seems that certain areas, not only Taylor Bottom, but other areas that are not, let's say, inhabited by the most economically sufficient residents of the city or the town, are still suffering. One of the big issues that's in the paper There's been back and forth now for perhaps the last year or so. They want to put a playground in that end of town. And the town council admits they have the money to do it. They have their own town maintenance department that can do all of the work and reduce the total cost of putting in a simple playground. But it seems to be an issue because the playground is going to be located near Taylor's Bottom. Can you, you know, give us any insight onto why this is? Why can't they just get a playground there? It's going to benefit everybody.
It's just odd to me because, like you said, it's little to no cost really. There, we already have maintenance in town. It's not like it's a huge expense. Now, there's a lot of speculation on why people, members of, specifically members of council, don't want a playground in that specific location. Um, and I think it's going to interfere with some people's outside lives and some stuff that they do. Um, I think that there it could be, and I don't want to stretch and I don't want to put any labels on anything. I think it could be some internalized racism because it would be a playground put in an area that services not only the children of Taylor Bottom, which is predominantly children and people of color, but other neighborhoods. And I don't, that's why I don't want to stamp it because I don't want to believe that that's the problem because that's just heartbreaking.
Blackstone has benefited from a long uh, relationship with the United States government, particularly due to the presence of Fort Barfoot, formerly Fort Pickett. Some people on the right are still unhappy that they changed the name, but who cares? Um, but the thing is, a lot of the attitude of the extremists trying to take over Nottoway County, trying to make it our way or the highway, will put them into direct contention with the United States government and the military personnel stationed on Fort Barfoot. Everybody is not from the South, and everybody is not far right wing MAGA in the U.S. military. Um, but just like in the civilian world, they expect that whoever, what they say goes, and it just doesn't work that way. And their mental attitude is causing a quicker exodus of residents, you know, from the area, and it's also causing people not to want to come into the area. And one thing that people are not talking about, the United States government, the military, perhaps under a Democratic administration or under a uh, socially aware and constitutionally correct administration, has reserved the right to close some of these places down and move them because of the extremist attitudes of the area. Especially like in the case of Tommy Tuberville, the senator from Alabama, the Space Command was going to move from Houston to Alabama, and because of his stunts with the Senate holding up military promotions, causing them heartaches, they said, you know what, forget you, Tuberville, and forget you, Alabama. Can you see this happening in Nottoway County?
I think it is that part. I think it's they have to be here so we could do whatever they want. I believe it's a lot of mindset of, oh, that'll never happen until it happens. And I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up and moved elsewhere because look what regular citizens do. Like the young people don't want to stay here. The progressive people don't feel comfortable or safe staying here. People don't want to send their children to school here anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised.
America's always been a, country that has been attracted to symbolism, the optics, metaphors, stereotypes. And one of the symbolic stereotypes is the community on the other side of the tracks. In other words, the good side of the town is, the affluent, the the rich side of the community, the movers and shakers, and supposedly the people that make things go and uh, you know rule rule the town, rule the county. And the other side of the tracks is always populated by the less affluent, the poor, the outcasts, and in the southern town, it's always mostly poor whites and poor people of color, or perhaps you know a few neighborhoods of people of color that are financially what we would call old middle class, but because of the color barrier, they can't get to the other side of the tracks. Um, you got any? Can you see this in Blackstone? Do you have any comments on if it's changing or the effects of how it is right now?
Oh, yes. Oh, first of all, Taylor Bottom gets blamed for everything. Absolutely. Something can happen all the way on the other end of town, and somehow it was Taylor Bottom. And for somebody that's lives here, and I have not lived here long, but in the last year, I live on a very quiet street. Really, not much happens over here. There's been a lot of police presence on Taylor Street, on Sullivan Street. It's not what people seem to like make it to be. When I told people I was moving over here, everyone was like, "Oh, be careful. It's so scary. It's so there's drugs." And I'm like, "It's really not. First of all, there's drugs all over Blackstone. There's drugs all over the country. Why do I need to be careful because I moved from Cole Harbor Road to Sullivan Street?" It, it's in racism. That's exactly what it is.
There's an old saying that the fish rots from the head down, and in small towns in the south, the head is usually, unless it's one of those in one of those isolated pockets of progressive uh, success, or where basically white people have given up and moved out and just left the mess that they created to you know the poor people or people of color. Uh, but in Nottoway and in Blackstone, it's like a Republican heaven, and a lot of the things that that they support as part of their party platform tend to generate or encourage the racism that we see in the streets today.
If you look at it, you have to look at the people that are in power. The Republican Party in Nottoway, the chairperson, the leader of it, has is always flooding social media with memes and posts that are racist and hateful. So look at the standard. It's basically, oh, look, he's in charge and he can do it, so I can do it too. It's basically making hateful people comfortable. And when you say, he says things like, oh, I don't support diversity and inclusion, like that's a blatant statement. And it makes these people comfortable. It's made racists comfortable.